let's look at 2026. The games are in Australia, the Victoria region, which is a big region of Australia, but it's going to be held in 4 cities there, isn't it?
That's correct. And interestingly, the Commonwealth Games has in recent years encouraged and incented a variety of communities to participate regionally in the delivery of the events in order to spread out the impact of those events. This was also, to some extent, the approach taken in Birmingham this past summer, where the 22 Commonwealth Games were held. And the impact there, because I attended those games, was remarkable in terms of regional regeneration.
Right. So while we're on that, I just want to expand a little bit, Lou. Obviously, global events in general have changed how we do things. There's costs involved that, like everything else, everything has spiraled in terms of what it takes to run, whether it be games or building a home. So my question is, I've been reading about some things that you and your team have done to sort of reinvent how we're going to do these particular games. And it's sort of, I'm intrigued when you've pulled in other stakeholders and partners, both public and private, and maybe expand on that and what your vision is there.
Oh, I'm delighted that you asked that question, Angelo, and that we've got a few minutes to discuss that, because it's really an interesting part of this. I should, for those that are unaware, give you a little bit of information, though, about the scale and impact of the games. The games generally will attract somewhere around 6,000 plus athletes. The Commonwealth of Countries encompasses almost a third of the world's population, the majority of them under 30 years old. The games will attract well in excess of 1 billion viewers. In Birmingham, they had well over 2.5 million tickets sold. There were months of events that surround it. So the scale of the event is quite significant. It'll be the largest event in the Hamilton-Burlington region's history, as a practical matter. In terms of our approach, it's changed quite considerably. When we first started this was going to be a celebratory ceremonial centenary anniversary of a sporting event, which obviously quite unusually and with historical significance was founded in the region in 1930, as Mark said at the beginning of the broadcast. And at that time, the proposed game program and funding model was very traditional, very heavy on ceremony, very expensive, certainly in terms of capital infrastructure. And then having secured the rights to bid for the 2030 games from Commonwealth Sport Canada, something happened that you may have heard of. It was the global pandemic. And as a consequence of that, we embarked on a journey with a variety of stakeholders to look at reinventing the games for a couple of reasons. One, we really began to lean into the Commonwealth Games Federation's mission of creating and building prosperous, sustainable, and healthy communities. We wanted to really lean into what that meant. That was one thing. Two, we're very sensitive to the reality of the conversation around these large games, that they're too expensive, they don't yield the impacts that communities need, especially at a time when the most marginalized are suffering the greatest. Because we had a very diverse stakeholder group of non-governmental leaders in post-secondary institutions, the private sector, a variety of not-for-profit and social enterprise leaders, we have 2 Indigenous nations that are partners. We put our heads together to look at how we might reinvent the initiative as a way of accelerating regeneration and impact, and supporting and better resourcing stakeholders like city government to advance the initiatives that they have prioritized, including things like housing affordability, employment, skills development, and so on. And so this bid is really a very innovative approach to taking what we look at as a toolkit, the game's toolkit, in that it draws a lot of resources from across public and private sector, and then to work with a variety of stakeholders, including municipal government, on the use of those tools to accelerate impact in the region well in advance of 2030. This isn't just about the event in 2030 and what's left after. It's about what can we do together in the 7 years leading to the event that will yield the greatest return for our communities.